The more photographs you take, the more documentation you present and preserve the story for the next generations.
So, when we are speaking of extermination, I know it is drastic and dramatic, but when we speak about the extermination, what we usually have in mind? Gas chambers, crematories, executions. No, it was also humiliating a body after the death. First, the patients of the mental hospitals were executed, and you see the big dot where Stutthof is placed. A very remote place. Altogether, when the camp became the state camp, it was 120 hectares. It was huge because we were just walking through the old camp. So the beginning was here, just behind the gate. The administration of the museum, during the cleaning of the forest, decided to start some research, not knowing whatever I think that they started even without knowing whether they'll find anything. They found soles of the shoes. In another place, they found a heap of shoes. So as I said, the more years pass and go, we find more evidence. The Poles from all around Poland, because after the Warsaw Uprising fell, 1944, there were huge transports from Warsaw. The Jews from all around Europe, but from Central East Europe, Central North. Most of the Jewish community from Hungary. Not only Auschwitz, but also this. And here we have the display of the soles of the shoes. Why only soles? Because the rest of the shoes were reused. Everything was reused. Even the corpses, because the bodies of the people before the crematory, remember the crematory is the older time. It's 1942, 43 was the gas chamber. So it was the further development of this death factor. Before, when anybody dies, they were either burned on the stake in the whole fire stake, as we call it in Polish, in the forest, or they were transported to Gdańsk to the cemetery. The cemetery, which in the 19th century was the cemetery of the thieves and vandals. Very significant to be humiliated even after death. The best research is when you're a student of medicine, to have the real bones. So the corpses were, the whole bodies were transported to the anatomical institute, and they were prepared to get the skeletons, and everything was used because out of, you know that in the process of preparing, of the preparation, you get something which resembles soap. Since then, we have the information that soap was produced in Gdańsk. We don't know whether it was soap, but it was used for the purpose of cleaning the tables, because this is what the students of anatomy have done at that time. And the skin of the people was used, if they were some soldiers, lovely tattooed, they were used for the lampshades, gloves, a round piece of wood. But sometimes it was like a triangle, you know, like the donkey's spine. When you sit on the donkey without the saddle or the blanket, you're going to suffer. And that was the aim of torturing in the medieval times. By the way, there was an execution in one of, well, the forest is over here, exactly near Wejherowo. The guy who fled, he survived his own death, and every year he visits his grave because he couldn't visit his family. Because of course the Nazis, whenever they performed execution, they first were circling around the places to see who else from the said family could be. and he reappeared home in 1950s. He was my dad's friend, and he said that when he appeared at home, his wife fainted. I said that I will say a few words about the children from 0 to 11, namely from 0 to 5. The Germans were not sparing ammunition on them. They were just smashing them against the trees. So you can imagine, this is another, I know however it sounds, but we just have to take it because this also was life, customs in that occupied countries for several years, from 1939 till 1945. So there was not a strict ghetto in Gdańsk, never, nothing like in Warsaw, for example, which you will hear the story. It was a building ghetto. In the street, which was in the granary, on the Granary Island, the street's name was Mice Street. Mice, like the little creatures. Okay, they were trying to flee, and they were trying to do it legally, still being loyal not to the Nazis, no, to the government. Because if you live in the state, whether it is Free City or Poland or wherever, you're a loyal citizen. If I'm loyal, they're not going to betray me. Huh? That's what we think. There were, for 100 families, there were 150 Wehrmacht soldiers. We think, we can only think that those guys who established that and guarding saved themselves from going to the front. At the same time, saving the life of those people, because if they killed the Jews there, they would have gone, because the ghetto would have been gone. Yes, the people would have died. Now, question, what happened to those people from the both sides, the Jews and the Germans? No idea. No idea. It's hard to believe that we don't have a single document. How do we know? Because some of the letters, they were allowed to write letters. That's only the thing that we know. Most of the Jews landed here, Auschwitz, Birkenau, which you will see, and the others. See how huge was Poland? Sometimes I'm asked questions, why in Poland? Why did the Nazis open so many concentration camps in Poland? Jews, Poles, Ukrainians, Lithuanians, Belarusians, Russians, Swedes, Danes, Germans, Czechs, Slovaks, Hungarians. How many nationalities I did? 12. All those people were citizens of Poland. This was to become the central extermination concentration camp for the people of this part of Europe.
I think before you pass away, some of you, I'm sure, have seen this word. You should be aware of it. German word, Judenfrei, free of Jews. The goal, of course, to make the world, make Poland, make this area, to rid the world of Jews. But you do see this a lot, so you should be aware of it. This won't be the only time in Poland that you come across this word.